face.
God, you just reminded me. I don't even remember when it was like VH1 and MTV, and you could switch back and forth. And VH1 was like the kind of like the
Adult contemporary,
like adulty stuff, and like R&B or like that kind of stuff. And MTV was like wild and crazy, and you just flip back and forth, and they would just get to see music videos on the television.
Yeah, you could drop into BET and CMT every once in a while if you just wanted to get a little niche.
Yeah.
I remember when MTV had the buzzbin genre, which was like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, whatever. They just called it the buzzbin, like at the beginning of grunge. And like they also had MTV buzzbin themed CDs.
Oh really?
Somebody
I forgot all about those.
Like
compilation CDs were huge in the late 80s.
And we would like buy them and be like, this is like the cool buzzbin CD.
Before you could go to the website and just click on play.
Yeah.
Well before websites, actually.
I used to buy compilation albums from Columbia House Record and Tape Club on vinyl, no less, because it would have hits. It would just get me all the hits I needed to play as a DJ at dances. Be like, oh, great.
Hey, remember rotary phones?
Oh, yeah.
I still have one. Somewhere.
We had those and used them to make phone calls to people.
Oh, yeah. Remember videotapes?
Yeah, and your answering machine was cassette tapes.
My
answering machine still is a cassette tape.
Tiny.
The best answering
get like a celebrity to like
standard cassette tapes. So you
play
didn't
your
have to
answering
buy
machine message.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, what was your first tape? And I was like, what do you mean?
Tape.
And they were like, well, what was your first, like the first tape you got as a kid? And I was like, the first like music I got as a kid was a 45.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
my first 45
tapes,
but like
my first
I never
45
had a record
was
player.
My first 45 was Bad Company, Moving On.
Mine was Blondie Tight as High.
My first LP was John Denver's Greatest Hits, Volume 2.
Hi.
And my first cassette tape was Stars on Long Play.
My first cassette was Aerosmith, the one with the cows.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say LPs, do you mean any musical genre or just
the show here?
It's 1:30 now.
No long philosophical questions.
All right. I was just going to say my first one was Bert and Ernie.
Nice.
So I'll need control and
you have it.
Can go. Oh, okay.
You have it. You have it.
All right. Here we go.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, November 6th, 2017. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline sur la plage, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from this weird closet in San Francisco, I'm Veronica Belmont.
Also in a small arena is Roger Chang, our producer.
Hello, I am in an arena.
He is. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. The Paradise Papers leak of financial documents shows that Apple moved the firm's holding its cash reserves to the Channel Island of Jersey after its Irish operation came under tax scrutiny and Ireland started changing laws. Jersey is a UK crown dependency that makes its own tax laws and, conveniently, has a 0% tax rate for foreign companies.
Deutsche Telekom and SoftBank are very on again and off again. They are off again. The companies have announced they've ended negotiations to merge T-Mobile USA and Sprint. SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son says the door is open, though, if management rights could be preserved.
Those two should just give it up.
Just make out or something. Just one or the other. Just figure it out.
Probably end things nicely.
Yeah, there you go. A nice bow on this story. Altice USA has agreed to launch its own wireless carrier on Sprint's network as an NVMO. Sorry, always mix those up. MVNO. Altice, previously known as Cablevision, operates the Optium and Suddenlink ISPs.
The U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear Samsung's appeal of an award of $120 million to Apple in a patent dispute. Now, it's most often referred to as the slide to unlock case, but most of the award came from infringement of a quick links patent. And with the Supreme Court saying we're not going to hear it, that's it. It's over.
We're not going to hear it.
Samsung has to pay $120 million.
They're just going, ah, la, 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 I can't hear you. Blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah,
give
blah.
us our 120 million. We don't hear you. Now here are some more top stories.
This is a big one. Broadcom offered an unsolicited bid worth $1.3 billion to acquire Qualcomm today, Monday. Qualcomm's share prices have been declining in the face of an ongoing legal fight with Apple. We've been talking about that a lot here on DTNS. Bloomberg reports that Qualcomm is planning to fend off the offer by Broadcom by claiming it undervalues the company. Broadcom has stated its intention to move its headquarters from Singapore to the United States, so a lot of moving parts here. In her Stacy on IoT newsletter, Stacy Higginbottom points out that chip prices have been falling while the cost of firmware development has been rising. A merger would give the combined company server, mobile, and embedded chips.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that Qualcomm doesn't want to do, but Broadcom's smart to say, "Hey, you're cheap right now.
We'll take it.
We'll take it," and see if they could pull off a merger, because there is a lot of chip consolidation. Qualcomm's in the middle of trying to buy NXP right now for similar reasons, because Qualcomm wants to get into the embedded auto market that NXP has, and it's a little bit of like nudibranchs being eaten because they're full of other food. Or something like, there's a science story similar to that. Go check out This Week in Science and We Have Concerns. But essentially, if Broadcom can eat Qualcomm while Qualcomm's eating NXP, then they get the whole thing.
It's like, why did she swallow a fly? I guess she'll die. Like
Yeah. Swallowed the horse that swallowed the Broadcom that swallowed, something like that. And don't forget that Samsung has its own chips. Apple is bringing more stuff in-house. Google's rumored to be bringing more stuff in-house. So a lot of these companies are worried that they won't have their normal ways to sell stuff. And patent dispute or not, if Apple starts bringing stuff in-house, that Qualcomm loses a huge amount of revenue there.
And kind of like, why wouldn't Apple at this point, or why wouldn't a company who has the capability to do so not bring things like that in-house? It would save them money. It would save them from having to worry about supply dependency. There's so many reasons why it makes sense. Is there a big reason not to do that?
It's cost, right? Like, but
Just
like you said, if they have the capability to do it, it seems to make all the sense in the world.
Well, it's easy to lose focus if you get the company too big and diverse across too many fields. But
yeah.
It always surprises me, even understanding how these things work. It's like Broadcom is like, we'll buy you. Price seems like a lot of money. And Qualcomm's like, whoa, you're undervaluing us. We reject that idea, but we might not have the opportunity to really reject it because we have a board. And
because if you have shareholders are like, I don't know, seems like a pretty good deal to me. Yeah.
And it's like 1 1/3 WeChats, right? I mean, that's pretty good deal, right?
Yeah. And the other thing Stacy Higginbottom pointed out was Internet of Things is so pervasive right now because the chips are so cheap. But the chips are so cheap because all of the money is going into the software, and a lot of the expense of these companies is in creating the firmware, which is another reason why companies like Google want to bring it in-house, because then they have control of the firmware and they can take control of the update process, which is a huge issue for Android.
Yeah. Well, changing keys a little bit here. Recode commissioned a SurveyMonkey poll to find out how many people, how they felt rather about Amazon Key, the service that lets delivery people drop packages inside your actual house. About 58% of people who have Amazon Prime definitely would not buy Amazon Key, according to the poll. 5% said they definitely would buy it. The numbers were fairly close to the amount of all U.S. adults, Prime subscribers or not. So, I don't know. This feels like a weird... I know you guys have talked about this on the show already, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it much. I just don't see this going well for Amazon.
Well, when we talked about the announcement, I talked about it as an interesting play to get a security system, right? Amazon says, hey, there's this convenient thing that'll let you get packages, and it's kind of the beginning of a security system, which is what Nest and August and a lot of other companies are starting to move towards as well, because of all those cheap chips we were just talking about and Internet of Things. But if you can't get people to join in for the lead-in reason, the convenient package delivery thing, then I don't know that you're going to get them to want to buy it despite that. And that's what the survey points out to me.
What I kind of wonder about is, like, I know we're far enough away from this being possible, so it's not a viable option right now. But if Amazon were to say, hey, we've got this new key initiative, it's going to make it so much easier for a robot to put a package in your house when you're not there,
Mm-hmm.
how much would people be like, oh, that sounds pretty good? I think it's the other person, even if the door is open for 2 seconds, that I know it makes me uneasy. It's just,
and even if there's a camera watching the person, like it just doesn't. I mean, I let that way, but I've vetted them. I've known them for years. Like it feels different. I don't know.
Well, it's all perception, right? Because honestly, the risk of this in an objective manner is lower than a lot of other things that people do. I'm not saying it's no risk, but maids and dog walkers and whatever, right?
Mhm.
And this has a camera pointed at them. They're delivery drivers, and they're only from a limited organization. In this case, so far, it's just Amazon. But it's that perception of like, yeah, but I don't know them, and they could be anybody, So
right.
Yeah. Intel and AMD co-designed an 8th gen Core H series chip package with semi-custom AMD Radeon graphics core in the package. It's not integrated. It's not really discrete, although it has everything a discrete graphics chip would have, but it is cats and dogs sleeping together, because if you missed that, Intel and AMD cooperating on a chip. This is an Intel chip. What AMD is doing is similar to what they do for like the Xbox or something like that. It's a semi-custom chip that AMD is making to order for Intel. It's Intel's embedded multi-die interconnect bridge, or EMIB, that makes this possible. Intel calls it a system in package module. So that bridge is able to connect an Intel Core chip, a Radeon Core graphics processor, and the HBM2 high bandwidth memory in a small package because of the way it's able to handle the interconnect. There's also a new power sharing framework that EMIB makes possible that helps manage the thermal output by managing the power based on workload and system temp and more. The module frees up 1,900 square millimeters of space, about 2.9 inches. And if you look at it, it looks like it's roughly half. If you had a discrete graphics card and the 3 DRAM modules you'd normally need, and you compare it to what this package looks like, it's saving a lot of space in there. So the hope is to move gaming class graphics from a 26 millimeter thick laptop to either a 16, or even Intel thinks they can get it into an 11 millimeter thick laptop. And AMD says that the laptop should be in the $1,200 to $1,400 price range. Package is expected to ship in laptops as early as Q1 2018.
So the story here is like Intel and AMD playing nice together after all these years.
Yeah, I mean, that's
and also the specs
line, right?
that sound promising as well, but it's just like, wow, what an unlikely pair after so many years of like back and forth, who's doing it better.
Well, what's interesting is it kind of underscores the fact that Intel has no competitive graphics solution, despite the fierce competitiveness from AMD and NVIDIA, and they need to get a load power high performance solution for not just laptops. I mean, they're aiming for mobile solutions, aiming for phones, right? And they still have yet to come up with a competitive.
Well, I don't think they're aiming for phones with this at all anymore. They've almost given up on the phones. They're like, I think we lost that battle. I
honestly think that they're taking this to the logical. They're the only two x86 manufacturer. Everyone else has gone ARM, pretty much. And so what they want is a high performance but low power solution. Something they can't do because they don't have a high performance embedded GPU that they can use.
Exactly. I mean, they have Iris, they have the integrated graphics, and they've got a pretty good lock on that. And then NVIDIA has the high end. Yeah. And Radeon's doing some good things to compete with them, but they're having a hard go. Yeah. So this is good for AMD as well, because it gives them an in to squeeze in the middle as well.
Definitely. And, Iris, as good as it is, does not compete on the level that AMD and NVIDIA are for the eyeballs of a mass number of users.
No, it's for low power stuff. So this is a huge thing for AMD. It's an interesting move for Intel because it does position Intel a little more directly against NVIDIA. And when you talk about AI and some server level applications, I mean, NVIDIA is more and more encroaching on territory that Intel wants to be, as they know, like mobile and especially phones is kind of a lost battle for them. They are moving towards being that maybe they can get into Internet of Things. Maybe they can get into AI. And on that AI level, NVIDIA is established already.
And, it does look like it's just basically, x86 people consolidating their forces because everyone else has gone ARM, and, well, they have their solution.
It makes strange bedfellows.
Yes, like politics.
Well, if anyone has been following my texting nightmare for the last week or so, Tom is well versed in this. Apple has acknowledged the existence of a bug in iOS 11 affecting some of us that autocorrects the letter I when you say something like, I like pizza, to a capital A and then a special character next to the I that makes it seem like you're texting drunk or tweeting drunk or getting drunk or whatever. And until the bug is fixed, in a software update, users are instructed to use the text replacement feature in keyboard settings, or turning off predictive text would also solve the problem. Tom helpfully has sent me both of these links. Not good enough. Just fix it, iOS 11. Anyone
I've
else?
noticed this ever since you pointed it out to me, because you got it, I don't know, last Thursday, I think. And I was like, well, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But we kind of figured out quickly it was an autocorrect thing. And then over the weekend on Twitter, I just kept seeing people typing a question mark. And I'm really excited for blah, 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 blah.
Well, the weird thing is, like, and I don't know how this works at all, but a friend of mine, also a Tom, not you, a different Tom, was like, isn't this a weird thing? And then as soon as he said it to me and I saw it, I got it.
It's so like it's spread.
It's as if
it's
there's
like a virus.
Like a virus thing going on.
Crazy.
But Apple did acknowledge it, so it's an Apple thing.
Didn't happen to me. Yeah, I have not experienced it.
Quick,
so I'm
text
not sure
it to
why.
Veronica.
Would you like me
don't, please don't. No.
Sarah started to say, let me send you it. I was like, no, don't send it to me. She's like, I'm not going to send you that.
Well, Android police noted over the weekend that some users are getting a product comparison chart when searching for two phone models and putting verses in between them. So Google Pixel 2 versus Samsung Galaxy S8, for instance, brings up a comparison chart of specs. There's even a switch to highlight differences between the two models. So you can do this right from Google now, it looks like.
Yeah, I got it today on the desktop, and it was pretty cool. I'm looking at it right now to see if I can get it. Yeah. There, you probably can't tell, but it does a little side by side. You can do more detailed comparison, and then you can hit that switch where it will just highlight anything that's different. So if they have the same RAM, same storage, or whatever, doesn't seem to want to turn on for me. There we go. It will actually, just turn it all yellow. Again, you can't really see that.
No, can't see that.
So that like, oh, okay, they both have 4G LTE. I don't care about that. But one's a little weightier than the other. One's got a different PPI, et cetera, et cetera. It's a cool little thing. Thing is, you can only do 2 at a time. You can't do 3 or more.
Oh, that's interesting. And I would imagine it's only Android devices right now.
No, I just did it on an iPhone 7.
Oh, but I mean, can you only compare Android devices?
I compared an iPhone 8 to a Pixel 2.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, my first question was like, oh, is this like a way for Google to be like, our phones are the best? But if it's actually just a side-by-side comparison based on 2 phone models that you want, like, I mean, unless you're the company who's like, our model doesn't look as good next to the competition. Yeah. I love that stuff.
No, you can do whatever phones you want, and it'll just go, because it's search. It's what Google used to be, which was neutral. And it just does a search. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. Also available in the Amazon Echo and in the Anchor app. That's a look at those headlines. Now, on VentureBeat today, European correspondent Chris O'Brien wrote a column posing the question that, in light of Twitter's seeming inability to stop propaganda posts from proliferating in response to any news event, whether users should pressure advertisers and investors to withdraw from Twitter and shut it down. Chris doesn't say they should shut it down, but he says, should they? Like, he's asking the question. And then Alexis Wachowski, who teaches technology, media, and government at the Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs, has a column on Wired called Net States Rule the World, and we need to recognize their power. Sarah, what does she mean by net states?
Net state would be something like a Facebook where me, Tom, Roger, and Veronica all live in the United States, but possibly I have more in common with somebody that I know on Facebook that lives in another country. So the whole idea of the nation state has begun to fail us in certain ways. And the idea of the net state is actually that's where the power is, that's where all the people are. And can we harness this in some way to, to have more power against bad people?
It's taking on that idea of an asymmetric world where folks that nation states are fighting against don't play by the rules of nation states, and in fact sometimes are so dispersed that they're more similar to an online organization like Anonymous or something like that than they are to anything traditional.
And doesn't it almost feel like our current political climate is like that anyway, that we're not really even existing in physical locations so much anymore as ideologies like on the internet, and like we've kind of put ourselves into a couple of camps or several camps, and we tend to relate more to people who share those views more than necessarily the people who live in the same place?
I think all of that is, it's very valid, and I would agree. I think the whole idea of a net state should have more power to affect change, presumably for the good. That's where I'm sort of but how do we do that? This all sounds fine and good to me, but we're still run by laws governed by nation. So,
well, I like what she says in here, that one of the problems, and she cites some military officials from the United States who have expressed this same challenge, is the people you're fighting are fighting with beliefs, and you're trying to fight them with superior firepower. And superior firepower doesn't always win out over the ability to persuade people to do things. And so they're saying, look, maybe what you need to do is go to these net states and get them on your side and ally with them, which I think in a fumbling way is what we're seeing with all of this concern about why is Facebook allowing this to be posted? Why is Twitter allowing this to proliferate? Which goes back to what Chris O'Brien was writing.
Well, it comes into, we talk about this on IRL, and we will continue to talk about this nonstop in season 2, but this idea of, platforms versus, what companies can or cannot do in terms of limiting speech or actions on the internet, and what power they should have and what power they do have, and how does that all fit in with our existing governments. And it's crazy. And what responsibility do they even have as private companies and organizations? And I don't know if anyone's really totally figured it out yet, because we seem to want different things out of them all the time, and we don't really know what we're asking for, it feels like. And it stresses me out a lot too, because even stuff about deplatforming hate speech and things like that has all sorts of crazy implications and ramifications. And we're still figuring out, because all of this stuff is still really new, and it's still really new in the grand scheme of humanity and civilization, and we don't know how to handle it yet.
Well, and I think a big problem with the idea of the net state, it's it doesn't really solve a problem. Again, to go back to comparing it to something like the United States, it's it's a multi-party system. It's kind of a two-party system, but there's lots of people with lots of different opinions. Facebook is no different. Facebook doesn't solve that. There's just more of us.
Well, but maybe what I think she's saying in the Wired article is not that solves everything, but we need to acknowledge it. We need to acknowledge that this is not just a traditional company like US Steel, that this is an entirely different kind of organization, and take that into account. And the nation state needs to do that for its own best interests, because when you're whether it doesn't matter if you're trying to fight a terrorist organization, or you're trying to fight Anonymous, or you're trying to fight WikiLeaks, they all are organized online in a way that is entirely different than any traditional government-backed agency, whether it's an intelligence agency or a military organization is.
Oh, even all of the organizations that you listed, they're sort of shrouded in secrecy, but there are organizations that are not shrouded in secrecy that are still organized online, are not about where you are geographically.
Absolutely. And communities that are organized online that have existed for a long time. And I think the thing that's hiding under our nose about a lot of this is that while the internet is new in humanity, a lot of these problems are not new, but a lot of us who dealt with them in the 90s and early 2000s sort of got used to like, oh, well, this is the workaround for that issue, right? When you get a troll in your Usenet group, this is how you deal with it. We didn't come up with a way that can be scaled,
Right.
that can be handled on the massive, large numbers of people that are now involved. Not only that, but those people aren't steeped in internet culture of the 1990s and the things that everybody agreed, well, you can do this, but you can't do that. It's an entirely different set of assumptions coming in now.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like it's just it's at a different pace, and maybe we're all even talking about like slightly different things too, our ideas of what this could look like or what this should look like. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it would be hard for me to say something like Mark Zuckerberg and team should, be, at the forefront of some new net state, that.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. I don't want King Mark either.
But it's sort of like, well, I mean, if I were to say, I think that the people running the nations across the world are doing a really great job, well, that's not really true either. So there's, it's a complex issue, but it's certainly an important.
And I think the where you're going with it is you don't want the solution isn't like, well, hand it over to the net states, let them run stuff. The solution is let's recognize the scale and influence that these companies have now. They're not little online startups anymore. And maybe the thing about net state is it's net state. It's not actually a state. And let's treat them like this new thing that they are. And maybe there's a better word for it that doesn't confuse the issue as much. But I think it's a useful way to start to try to think about the problems. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Reddit's a minor principality. It's a
yes. It's a city state.
Yeah, it's a net city state. Facebook.com/group/Daily Tech News Show if you want to be in the wider empire. And let's check in right now with Chris Christensen for what's going on with travel.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. I have an interesting story today that happens in the intersection of European air travel, trade negotiations, and technology. The European Cockpit Association is trying to negotiate on behalf of all the pilots. There's some labor disputes, especially in terms of how much people are getting paid to be pilots at some of the smaller airlines in Europe. And the interesting thing is that normally you'd have something like a trade union fund that would protect people in case somebody gets fired and those sort of things. The tech wrinkle this time is that they are crowdfunding that campaign. There's a campaign on GoFundMe called Pilot Unity. And if you go check that, pilots, but also people who want to support them, can support the European Cockpit Association in their battles with the airlines. So check that out if you are interested in being part of that. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Thank you, Chris. Very interesting to see the cross-section of crowdfunding and labor organization.
Who knew?
Yeah. Let's check in with our messages of the day. Kick us off, Veronica.
All right, this one comes from Matt, who says, hey, Tom, Veronica, Sarah, Roger, and guest potentially. So last week, you guys talked about the term AI being vastly overused, like 4G, and thought of trying to come up with a term for AI-like that would be just rules-based. Well, in the Mass Effect video game series, AIs are outlawed due to an uprising of one. So instead, they have VIs, or virtual intelligence, to fill the gap of the virtual assistants and tour guides, which I think works. It's not really intelligent, but has the appearance of it. I'd be curious to see if anyone else has had any good terms, but I personally liked that one. Matt, Waffleophagus.
Yeah, I like that. Virtual intelligence is a good interim step to apply to certain machine learning things. And as we get to realize that the Turing test isn't even really the best test of actual intelligence, maybe the Turing test is a good test of virtual intelligence.
Yeah, it's hard because I think the problem here for me is not actually the artificial part, it's the intelligence part. So just replacing artificial with virtual doesn't really fix it for me. So I think I need something that would be like Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Well,
not sure
what it does for me is virtual says this isn't really intelligent, but it kind of appears intelligent, and it takes away
but artificial doesn't take away that either.
Artificial. I always think of artificial intelligent as it's intelligent, but it's an artificial being, not a natural organism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got another email on a completely different note from Chad, who says, I was catching up on DTNS this afternoon and heard some discussion in reference to touch identification working on Apple iOS devices when the owner is deceased. Now, I remember us talking about when an owner was in a coma, but okay, let's talk about this. I do not have any technical information, says Chad, in reference to this, but I have practical experience because I actually work as a detective for a police department. And one of the things I try to do in a death investigation is to find the person's phone and try to unlock that device with their fingerprints. However, on natural deaths, especially homicide investigations, obvious investigations where mobile devices can become very important, also not uncommon. Suicide notes may be drafted on mobile devices and then saved on devices. Very helpful to understand what's going on. So suicide search history also would be good too. Somebody's looking up something where you can kind of put point A and point B together to figure out what might have happened at a crime scene. I would encourage everybody to give their passcode to somebody or leave their fingerprint in your mobile telephone. So like if you had a trusted person, you could actually save their fingerprint in your phone, says Chad. Being able to use a deceased person's fingerprint seems to have a limited time frame. Doesn't always work. The only thing I can say is the sooner, the better. Again, Chad says, not sure what the technical implications of this are, but I have done this many times. Sorry for the dark themed email, but I thought people might be interested in my experience. I have a really stressful job, and listening to your podcast is one of the ways I find an escape.
Oh, well.
Wow.
I know. Crazy, right?
Yeah. No, literally morbid, but really fascinating. Yeah. And
well, we have noticed that the iPhone face recognition, you probably talked about this, doesn't work if your eyes are closed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a nice one thing. I guess you could hold open someone's eyeball.
No, I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if that would work. Because it's supposed to detect attention somehow, and I'm not sure how that works.
I remember when Touch ID first came on the scene, and everyone was like, "Oh no, people are going to get drugged, and then someone's going to open their phone, and there's gonna be this whole thing." And there was some, I don't know. I guess Apple. There was some reason that it was like, "Oh, if you're unconscious, this isn't a problem." But I mean, if you're deceased and you can also do it, then clearly there's more to it.
Well, Veronica Belmont, thank you for joining us as always. We're very much glad that you're alive to open your own phone. What do you got going on?
Not a whole lot, Tom. Girlbot.io is the day job. Swordandlaser.com is the podcast. IRL's coming back in January.
Woo-hoo.
So we are working on new episodes. First 2 or 3 are in the can. We're very excited.
Very good. Go check all of those things out. And if you want to support our show, we exist because you want us to. And in fact, we have 4 more patrons right now than we did last month. Let's keep it up. Let's see how many more we can get. If you haven't supported the show yet, now's your chance. Patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We are live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. Make note of that new time at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Sarah's out tomorrow, but Patrick Beja will be here. We'll talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Sorry, I was late on the music there. Everyone started texting me and a drill went off and I got distracted.
A drill went off?
Yeah, I'm building something next door. It's ridiculous.
I see. That'll do it.
Yeah. Thanks, Biocat. Sorry, a dentist?
You said the drill. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Never
They're
mind.
putting in a like security system for my neighbor with lights.
Ooh, what are they hiding?
No, like lights and stuff, motion sensitive lights, a doorbell and all that.
What are they securing?
the 85-year-old woman who lives there. That's what they're securing. So what are we going to call this?
We're going to call this Intel and AMD team up. Broadcom's and Qualcomm's Wait, didn't we do a Romcom before that? Apple says it's owed 120 million. Samsung disagrees. Intel arms its graphics. Close, maybe.
Party har.
Cat and dogs get along. Intel and AMD play nice. There's no I in Apple message. Shrouded in secrecy, a lot of moving parts. Amtel. A little bit like
AM. Yeah, got it.
Strange bedfellows. AI isn't Apple's thing. There's not a lot of titles this episode. A like pizza.
Oh, someone made the iPhone bug happen. BioCal. Did you do that with an Android phone?
Phone bug.
What do you guys like for the title?
I'm partial to the Romcom.
Broadcom and Qualcomm's Romcom. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Gigantor. Big company.
Oh,
AI like would just be rules based.
Man, I'm so excited about this standing pad that I got.
Are you gelling?
Desk.
Is it gelled?
It's not a gel. Well, it might be. It's not like a sole insert. Not that kind of gelling.
Not like a Dr. Scholl's.
No, but it's like the really good carpet at CES.
Oh, the deep ply.
Yeah, when you start walking through those booths, you're like, "Ooh, this feels good on my feet."
Hey
this feels
guys,
luxurious.
Just in the interest of my own sanity, I'm gonna
Oh yeah, go.
Yeah, I just want to get to the airport sooner than later.
Come catch your flight.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a safe flight.
Bye.
And then it was just us three.
Broadcom and Qualcomm's Romcom.
That's funny.
It's funny. Frank says it's funny. It must be funny.
Funny.
Net state. Kind of reminds me of the political movements back in the turn of the 20th century. Spanned continents.
Net state. Well, it reminds me of Neil Stephenson, where he talks about the corporations becoming nation states.
Isn't that the thing from Shadowrun?
I was thinking of not Shadowrun. Snow Crash.
I think that was not Bruce. Why do I say Bruce Dickinson?
I should go back to work too.
Oh, all right.
Oh, fine.
Bye. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm trying to remember his name. So that's cyber. Yeah, like the whole corporations as corporate or nation states.
Well, yeah, I know Neil Stephenson wasn't the first one to ever posit it. I'm sure lots of people have.
No, but like in the game Shadowrun, that was like one of the core.
Well, I think other sci-fi authors probably.
Core aspects of the game is that you contracted out with each corporation who had not only power but also like a good amount of physical territory.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the early.
Yeah, William Gibson had similar stuff too.
That's it, William Gibson. Why did I say Bruce?
Bruce Sterling. You're thinking of Bruce Sterling because Bruce Sterling and William Gibson occupy the same part of your brain, I bet.
William Gibson. That's it. I remember the one thing I remember from his interview. I don't like boosterism.
Boosterism?
You know, where people try to, well, not people, but there's like a local movement to kind of almost sell outsiders on whatever community that they're in by saying like, oh, we should do this. We're the best. You know, just kind of because he thought it was more often than not just very empty slogan.
Disingenuous.
Yes. Just a lot of neat slogans, but didn't have a behind it.
Sloganeering. I mean, I don't know. It's fine for people to go out and say that their place is the best, but I'm totally with him that if it's just boosterism, that it's not going to sway me. You need to have something behind it, right?
Like my teeth. Oh. Hey,
Roger, can you prove you're human?
I don't know. I mean, I could take a blood test and like a DNA test from 23andMe and hand you the results. But you would obviously say that they were from someone else.
Sure. Yeah, you could have hacked in and as an
Unless
AI.
you physically killed me in a mano wrestling match and then took my remains to be autopsied.
And ate your heart to gain your power.
You know, we might have been onto something back then. Like we'll eat. Like if you ate someone's kidney, would you suddenly get their like?
You get their ability to process waste products.
Yeah, like I could drink from this dirty river now because I.
Well, and yeah, so a heart. I don't want to talk about eating hearts anymore. Yeah, it's too soon after lunch.
Yeah, that's why I eat lunch in the morning.
That's smart. Get it out of the way.
You know, it's funny. I've eaten lunch more often, or no, breakfast now that I work from home than I ever have since high school. Like I never ate breakfast, except like the last time I regularly ate breakfast was in junior high.
Yeah, I actually eat a breakfast now, but it's no different than when I was working outside the home. I don't really take advantage of the ability to be home. My breakfast is doing the headlines. I eat tech news for breakfast. That's what I'm trying to say.
I eat one of those open nature Greek yogurt cups because I like yogurt.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like bacon and eggs kind of breakfast. You're talking about eating anything at all, sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that what breakfast is? I mean, does it have to be bacon and eggs?
I don't know. I feel like because all I do is I eat a little bit of muesli and yogurt, and I'm like, that's not really breakfast. It's more like a snack. I consider breakfast to be like, English muffin, bacon, eggs, full bowl of oatmeal.
Full bowl, man. That's a huge.
Well, not all of those. I'm just saying those are elements of a complete breakfast.
I used to marvel and kind of slightly found repugnant that my chemistry teacher in high school ate steak and eggs for breakfast almost every day.
Every day? I mean, I had steak and eggs for breakfast yesterday, but
that's what he
special
claimed.
occasion.
I wasn't a big fan of Mr. Riley's teaching style.
It's like Dexter. Dexter ate steak and eggs every morning. So speaking of Marvel, you said you marveled. Did you see the report that Disney and Fox have been talking about a sale where 21st Century Fox would sell off the movie studio, television production, and cable channels, but keep the news and sports operations and all the local channels?
Oh, that's great. Because then, wait a minute.
Because then X-Men would return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So what happens? Does the Simpsons end at some point then?
Well, no, because why would it end if it got sold? Second of all, that's a broadcast property, I assume. So I wonder if Fox television production would send The Simpsons to Disney, but it would keep airing on Fox Broadcasting.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, so the way you described it, it's just their movie or studios. It's not their TV.
It's the TV production arm. That's the part that makes TV for other people, right? Yes. Although it also makes TV for itself, and the movie studio and that's it. Oh, and the cable channels. So like FX, National Geo. This is all rumor anyway. It's on again, off again talks. Not necessarily going to happen.
And Disney would be riding high. I don't know. It's I don't know. I think I'm wondering if we're running into a period where there's just way too much Marvel stuff.
You're worried about peak Marvel?
You know, like it's like any other. Like I was watching the Inhumans on Hulu, and man, I could not get into it at all. Like, and I used to read Inhumans back in the 80s. And I know they rebooted stuff, but the stories are just kind of it's not they were bad. They just seem very, very much of a rehash of something you've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that has nothing to do with 21st Century Fox buying Disney. That's just not everything they're trying is working. But that has, that's going to happen. Some things are going to fail. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is okay. It's not as good as...
Still can't watch it. I tried watching it because
the
I heard
FX
it got
show?
better. Oh, Legion?
Legion, yeah. Legion's the best one of the Marvel TV series that I've seen. And that's Fox. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, hanging out with us. We're going to head out now. We'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, Sarah's off for the next few days on another project, but Patrick Beja will be here, and we'll chat with him. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.